Prime Field.
Rory Harmon's floater left her hand with 0.7 seconds on the clock. Texas 66, South Carolina 64. In the box score, it reads as a game winner in a November tournament. On film, it is something else entirely. A closing statement to 40 minutes of calculated disruption. On November 27, 2025, in the Players Era Championship, number 4 Texas played number 2 South Carolina with only 7 available players. 3 Longhorn starters stayed on the floor for the entire game. Yet against one of the deepest rosters in the country, Texas did not simply survive. It imposed a plan. This documentary examines that plan, how a shorthanded Texas team controlled tempo, pressured the ball, and systematically pulled South Carolina out of its preferred game. Welcome to Prime Field. This is the story of how Texas revealed a blueprint to beat a modern powerhouse, and what that means for every opponent waiting in South Carolina's path. Vic Schaefer describes his defensive identity in terms of competitive spirit and ball pressure. Against South Carolina, that philosophy turned into concrete damage. South Carolina committed 13 turnovers. Those giveaways became 18 points for Texas, essentially mirroring the Gamecocks' own transition production. Each mistake was leveraged. Each loose handle became a scoring opportunity going the other way. Madison Booker stood at the center of that disruption. She recorded 5 steals, her 4th game of the season with 5 or more. Entering conference play, she was averaging 3.9 steals per game. That is not opportunistic defense. That is structural pressure, built into the way Texas guarded the ball. South Carolina's primary handler, Raven Johnson, felt that structure. She finished 2 of 5 from the field with 3 turnovers. The usual stability at the point of attack eroded under Texas's pressure. Possessions did not start cleanly. Sets did not initiate on time. The opening layer of the blueprint was clear. Before any scheme could matter in the half court, Texas would first disrupt the foundation of South Carolina's rhythm at the point of attack, and force the offense to operate from a position of hesitation. Once the ball was pressured, Texas turned its attention to the wings. The goal was straightforward: constrict space, challenge catches, and turn South Carolina's perimeter into a crowded, uncomfortable zone. Tessa Johnson, a central perimeter option, shot 6 of 11 from the field and committed 2 turnovers. On paper, the efficiency appears solid. On film, those numbers came under constant harassment. Texas made her work for every touch and refused to allow clean early clock looks. The Gamecocks as a team went just 2 of 7 and from 3-point range. At 28.6% from beyond the arc, they never forced Texas to stretch its defense to the breaking point. Instead, the Longhorns compressed the floor, took away rhythm threes, and redirected the offense into areas Texas wanted to guard. Tanaya Latson faced similar resistance. She finished 4 of 12 from the field, 33.3%, with 3 turnovers. Texas switched and contested, denying her the type of separation that normally fuels her scoring. By the end of these possessions, South Carolina's offense was not expanding the floor. It was playing inside a smaller box, one drawn by Texas' physical coverage on the wings, and that shrinking space would feed directly into the next layer of the game plan. South Carolina's recent identity has relied heavily on transition. Stops turn into sprints. Rebounds turn into quick outlets and early attacks. In championship runs, the Gamecocks have posted games with 20 or more fast break points. Texas refused to let that version of South Carolina emerge. In this game, South Carolina finished with just 7 fast break points. Texas, by contrast, registered 8. The numbers are close, but the significance is not. Texas did not need to dominate transition. It only needed to prevent South Carolina from using it as an accelerant. The Longhorns' work on the glass made that possible. They posted a 46% offensive rebounding rate, pulling down 16 offensive rebounds on 35 missed shots. Each second chance opportunity was also a preventative measure, another possession where South Carolina never touched the ball in space. Bench production told the same story. South Carolina's bench, often a catalyst for energy and tempo, was outscored 17-2. Depth, typically an advantage, never translated into the familiar waves of fresh legs igniting the break. By the middle quarters, pace was no longer dictated by roster size or athleticism. It was dictated by the way Texas extended possessions, limited clean runouts, and turned the game into a half-court exercise, exactly where the next phase of the blueprint would be tested. South Carolina's interior presence is a defining feature of its roster. Rim protection and length usually reshape the geometry of the game. Against Texas, that geometry changed in an unexpected direction. Texas scored 28 points in the paint against one of the nation's most imposing front courts. South Carolina finished with 38 paint points, but many came during late-game urgency rather than sustained interior control. The key was how Texas used its offensive sets. By pulling South Carolina's rim protectors into space, through ball screens, high post actions, and movement away from the restricted area, The Longhorns created driving lanes and angles that would not exist against a static, packed paint. Justice Carlton embodied that approach. She delivered 13 points and 8 rebounds off the bench, capitalizing on moments when South Carolina's bigs were forced to defend away from the rim. Her production helped Texas maintain pressure on the interior without conceding the paint as South Carolina's exclusive domain. Hyla Oldacre added 7 rebounds in 28 minutes. Her presence on the glass further disrupted South Carolina's interior alignment and contributed to the second chance opportunities that had already slowed the Gamecocks' transition attack. The result was not an overpowering of South Carolina's size. It was a redefinition of where that size was allowed to operate, and that shift in turn set up targeted attacks on the Gamecocks' guard rotation. With the floor stretched and the paint redrawn, Texas focused on individual matchups. The objective? Force South Carolina's guards into difficult decisions and compromised positions. Jordan Lee finished with 19 points on 6 of 18 shooting. The field goal percentage was modest, but the context matters. She went 6 of 6 from the free throw line. Those trips to the stripe reflected repeated drives into contact and persistent pressure on South Carolina's backcourt defenders. Raven Johnson, already challenged as a primary ball handler, faced additional strain on the defensive end. Her assignment on Madison Booker did not yield containment. Booker closed the game with 16 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 steals. She remained productive despite being a central focus of South Carolina's game plan. Inside, the cumulative effect of these actions appeared on the foul ledger. Medina Oko fouled out with 1 minute 52 remaining in regulation. Her 5th foul came after extended sequences where Texas pulled her into ball screen coverage and off-ball actions, forcing decisions in space rather than static rim protection. By the closing minutes, South Carolina's guard rotation had absorbed constant pressure. Its anchor in the middle had been disqualified. The blueprint was no longer theoretical. It had tangible consequences, and those consequences were visible in how South Carolina's offense began to unravel late in possessions. One of the clearest indicators of offensive discomfort is the shot clock. Against Texas, South Carolina spent long stretches of the game operating under that pressure. The Gamecocks shot 37.5% in the first quarter. In the second quarter, that figure fell to 31.3%. Both teams scored only 10 points in the second period, but for South Carolina, the pattern was especially telling. Possessions were extended, looks were contested, rhythm was rare. Texas recorded 5 blocks. Many of those came at the culmination of slow-developing possessions, as South Carolina probed without fully breaking down the defense. Late clock drives met set defenders at the rim. The stagnation did not resemble South Carolina's typical early clock attack, where quick actions and decisive reads generate clean opportunities. Instead, it mirrored exactly what Texas' scheme sought to accomplish: force decisions under time pressure, with fewer options and more bodies in the way. By the time the game reached its final moments, South Carolina had spent most of the night negotiating the clock as much as the defense. That reality set the stage for the closing possession, and highlighted why this performance resonated far beyond a single result. The most revealing statistic from this game may not be a shooting percentage or a scoring total, it is the number 7. Texas won with 7 available players. 3 starters played the entire 40 minutes. The victory did not depend on overwhelming depth nor on unusual hot shooting. It depended on control, of pace, of decisions, and of where the game was played. Rory Harmon's season-long 6.57 1 assist-to-turnover ratio that control. Against South Carolina's pressure, ball security was not a luxury. It was a requirement for the blueprint to hold. Texas out-rebounded South Carolina 39-32, including 16 offensive rebounds. Those numbers did not come from a dramatic size advantage. They came from positioning, effort, and a commitment to extending possessions. Second chance points told the same story. Texas produced 12. South Carolina only managed 8. Each extra opportunity reinforced the central idea. Tempo could be managed not only by playing slowly, but by playing longer on each trip. In combination, these factors show why the blueprint extends beyond this particular roster. The core principles, ball pressure, disciplined tempo, strategic use of space, and commitment to the glass, are not exclusive to Texas. They are available concepts, waiting to be adopted, refined, and deployed by future opponents. On the surface, the box score from November 27, 2025 will read as a 2-point win for Texas over South Carolina in a neutral site championship game. For coaches and analysts, it will read as something more enduring. Within the span of 1 calendar year, Texas has now demonstrated on multiple occasions that South Carolina's system can be slowed, stalled, and ultimately beaten by a team committed to specific principles. Not by matching talent position for position, not by replicating South Carolina's identity, but by forcing the Gamecocks into a game they do not prefer to play. The legacy of this night lies in its clarity. Opponents have film of a top-tier program using ball pressure to disrupt initiation. They have evidence of how constricting the perimeter and minimizing transition can neutralize a historically powerful powerful attack. They have examples of how stretching the front court and attacking guarded space can draw fouls and change the interior math. As conference play approaches in January, the implications are direct. Future SEC opponents now possess a tested framework. Make South Carolina win in the half court, limit live ball opportunities, and trust that disciplined tempo can narrow the gap in talent. The game ended with a floater from a veteran guard and a 2-point margin. Its impact may extend much further into scouting reports, practice plans, and strategic decisions across an entire season. In that sense, Texas did more than win a tournament title. It left behind a blueprint and invited the rest of the country to study it.
Prime Field.